Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we'll be talking about the spell Find Steed.
There he is.
Horse!
There's Steed. I found him.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, readers of my books will know that I'm a big fan of the spell Mount from 3rd edition. But 5th edition took some of the fun away from that. Now, before we get into it, what exactly does Find Steed do?
Okay, so Find Steed's a really weird, more feature than spell in that this is a paladin exclusive that gives you it does what it says on the tin. It finds you a steed, but it also makes the steed smarter, and lets it understand language, which is nifty. And then you can mount it and you ride it around like a mount. It's just a mount. It's a summonable mount. So there are some weird use cases, I think, for it. And as a whole, it's just kind of like Paladin. Do you want a horse? Have horse. Paladin, would you rather have a camel? Have camel. That's kind of what it is.
Is it? But this is a fey creature, right? This is not an actual horse or camel.
You can pick the typing as either celestial, fey, or fiend,
right?
Which is okay. Sure. I want a fey camel.
I want a real horse that I can go set off traps with and stuff.
This is definitely not. This doesn't give you a real horse. This gives you definitely a celestial, fey or fiend horse. So you get the pick.
Yeah. All right. What else? Let's see. All right.
So the whole of the spell, if we just go through the description, which I think is worth doing because there's a lot of weird text nested and hidden in here. So you summon in an unoccupied space within a 30-foot area of you, which is on its initially also weird that you can summon a horse, but you can put it within 30 feet of you. Granted, it is 10-minute cast time, but still, you can put it if you need to summon a horse inside a tavern for some reason, cause some mayhem, you can do that. The steed has the statistics, but again, the type changes like we mentioned. And if it has an int of 5 or less, its int becomes 6. And it understands the language. Additionally, it gives you this bond in combat, which doesn't do anything outside of when you would cast a spell that only targets you, you can also target your steed. So if you divine favor yourself, pro good and evil yourself, any of the sort of helpful buff spells, it can also affect your horse. If it ever hits 0 HP, it vanishes. So you can't drop dead horses on people, which I don't know. That sounds like something that I would find in Caverns and Creatures. You can also dismiss it and have it disappear, which could be used to play a practical joke, I suppose. And then casting it again will bring you a new horse with max HP. And while it's within a mile of you, you can communicate with telepathically.
If that's something you need to do.
Yeah.
You and your horse are on secret covert missions.
So this to me really, you can only have one at a time. That's the other really important line last of the text is you can't cast a spell and make an army of horses. This spell reads really similar to Find Familiar, but it's different in that it's a horse.
It's a horse.
Which is less useful
than
a tiny creature?
Different useful. I mean, you're probably not using your horse to go scouting the I don't know, the dungeons or the enemy's bedroom or something.
Why, Bob? Why aren't you doing that?
Because it's a horse.
It's got 20 whole hit points though. Just send it sprinting through the dungeon as fast as it's going 120 feet around because it's dashing, right? This thing goes very fast. It goes faster than most familiars do. I'm just saying. I think there may be some weird niche utility in that last little bit of text that elevates it a little bit above just I have a horse. Which big fan of. I'm a big fan of using spells in weird ways in this establishment, and I think this spell fits a lot of those categories.
All right, what about actual mounted combat though? What
Oh god, I was really dreading this, but okay, we can do it. Okay, mounted combat in 5th edition, it is relatively straightforward. there's basically two sections of it. The first section is how to mount your steed, and if you want to mount your steed, you spend half your movement. So if you have to take 20 feet in your turn to get to your horse, and you have a 30-foot speed, you can't get on it the same turn because it takes 15 feet to get on it. Easy peasy. You can get knocked off of it and shit. I'm not going to go into the whole how you can get knocked off your horse. So I want to talk about controlling it mainly. So controlling your mount is where things get a little bit sticky. And the reason why it gets a little bit sticky is because there's two options. Option number one is you move its initiative to your initiative, and you can direct it on your turn, like you can direct it on its initiative count to move and do the things. And it can only take 3 actions. It can dash, disengage, or dodge. All of that is nifty in that you having a warhorse, for example, which is often going to be a magnet for attacks because it's very big and threatening. Getting to move and dodge in the same turn kind of is just giving you a 60-foot move speed with an extra bucket of hit points, which is neat. That's how the controlling of it does it. It even says a controlled mount can move and act even on the turn that you mount it, even on your turn. So like, let's say you use 15 feet to get to it, 15 feet to mount it, then you can immediately dash it 120 feet and be across the battlefield like that.
All right. Now, all this you're saying, is this Find Steed horse or
this is every
horse,
single mount that exists.
okay.
The Find Steed stuff comes into play on the second bit, because the second bit says you could alternatively let a mount act independently and keep its initiative order. This is potentially better in that you can telepathically communicate with your horse. You can talk to it. You can just tell it, I'd like you to go over there. Your DM then gets to decide if the Celestial Fae or Fiend wants to do that. It's implied that it does, but it then will act on its turn and move you around on its turn instead of your turn. The big upside here, and this is a very big upside, is it can make attacks if it's acting independently. You're looking at like just a pony as like the little example of a CR-18 monster is an extra 2d4 plus 2 bludgeoning damage on hit. Getting an extra 2d4 plus 2 bludgeoning damage is great. You can even you can use your action to ready an action to, whenever I'm engaged with something, hit it with a great sword, and then my pony also beats it in with its hooves. You can take something like an elk, which has a ram attack and a charge attached to it. It can charge things down, doing a d6 plus 3 with its ram and 2d6 bonus from the charge, and knock things prone, which then gives you advantage on attack rolls against it, which can be very good. This can be the kind of circumstances where if you're willing to work around the independent system and have it function with your DM, you can get into some cool tag teaming kind of stuff that you would see with like a Beastmaster Ranger, but without having to be a bad subclass. So like, there's a lot of potential really cool upside of using the actual stat block outside of just its speed to do some neat things at some costs of when you get to do them that isn't necessarily intuitive.
Okay. Yeah. What about, am I mistaken, or is this a different edition, or do you get advantages like to your attacks when you're on a mount and your opponent is not?
There is a feat for that. A lot of old mechanics that existed got moved into feats. So mounted combatant in particular says you have advantage on melee attack rolls against unmounted creatures that are smaller than your mount. Most mounts are large that you'll be doing, like you probably want elk or horse if you're doing this. So like that's going to be pretty good. Additionally, the mounted combatant feat, like I think this also was in older editions, you could redirect attacks to yourself while you were mounted. That's locked behind a feat. If you are taking this and you really like the play style, which if we're going to be honest, is kind of mediocre. There are better ways to kill people as a paladin than Find Steed, but you know, sure, it's a 60-foot speed at minimum. It's probably worth taking. You could dip into the mounted combatant feat and really go whole hog into the I want to be the mounted knight character and have a pretty good amount of success with it. It also like it gives your mount evasion as another part of the feat. So if it would succeed on a save, it doesn't instantly die, which is nice because these things don't get more HP as you level up. They're going to be at 19 hit points their whole life. And that's not great for fireballs. So, you know, something to consider whenever you're doing the mounted combat thing is acknowledge that it's really only going to work against creatures with attack rolls. And even in those encounters, it's not going to live very long. So it's, you know, not always a given, which is a bummer.
Yeah. All right, well, that was Find Steed. You got a rating for this one?
I mean, I think it's It's relatively harmless. It's something you can do over and over again. It doesn't have a cost like gold-wise or anything with it, and it lasts for however long you have it. I can't see a reason to be a paladin and not use this. That makes it an easy 4 out of 5. A paladin with a 60-foot move speed is very good. This gives you a 60-foot move speed whenever you want it, and then like we talked about, there are ways to make this even better if you can if you can figure out how you're running independent mount combat. This can give you free extra attacks. This can give you ridiculous speeds. This can put you in circumstances where whether you have finite control of your mount or not is a weird little back and forth thing that you're going to be doing, where you like dismount and remount to change which mode you're in so you can do tactical movements. There's going to be some weird metagamey stuff that happen with it that can be very good. So much so that like your other fast characters are going to be like, wow, why do I exist when this paladin is just rolling over to everyone with their gargantuan steed and killing everyone with their greatsword, and I'm just a barbarian running half the speed of it. In that situation, I think the spell is very good. I think most tables it's going to be more of a pet, and at those tables it's just fun. Who doesn't love pets? So very harmless though.
Yeah, that's probably includes my tables. You said a lot of great things it could do, but I'm probably not going to do those things.
It's crunchy.
Yeah,
is the problem with it, right?
I'm gonna go 3 out of 5. Gonna take the rare dip under you, but yeah, just because it doesn't excite me.
Oh, I have a very exciting prospect of taking an elk and telepathically communicating with it and having it act as like a ferret familiar where it's trying to do some espionage things. I think that's a very silly scene that I would love to actually have bring to light. That sounds amazing.
Yeah,
so
trench coat and a fake mustache.
Exactly. Sounds great.
Okay.
And the enemies just like, is that moose watching us? What? Does anyone else see the moose? Am I crazy? Like, I don't know. That sounds fun to me.
All right. Well, that was Find Steed. Thank you, Sam. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.